Yes.
Thank you.
All right, we are live. This is, I say this every week, but it truly is my favorite part because you get to see everybody's name pop up as the participants start being led into the call. So as always, as you log in, chat us, let us know where you're calling in from. We have a great conversation this week that I can't get started. It's going to go by way too fast, and I know I'm going to have more questions than we have time for. But certainly give us a shout out. I see Amy Johnson and Amy DiFrancesco that are on our calls like every week. So thank you for tuning back in. We are, and Cheryl Ellis, who has been on every one of our webinars since March. I so appreciate, and Casey and Amy, I so appreciate you guys. Thank you. We're going to tackle domestic again this week. We have, since the end of March, been tackling market by market, area by area, region by region, whether it be international operators or domestic operators, receptive. Hotel beds was a great webinar last week. Just really trying to garner as much information as possible so we can navigate recovery in the best way. And our panelists this week have really done some great things to help their companies, guide their companies through this crazy time that we're living in. So everyone comes out stronger on the other end. So I know our attendees, and I know they're going to have tons of questions for you. So as normal, if you could put your questions in Q&A, that makes it easier for us to go to one place to look at them. But if they're in the chat, we'll try to weed through them. But again, it is easier in Q&A. Jim from Virginia Beach, back on the line. Thank you, Jim. And I saw some of your posts and some of the tours that were coming into Virginia Beach. So congratulations on that. We are going to get started because we have a ton of information to go through today, and I know we have some great things to talk about. So I'm going to, as normal, let our panelists introduce their companies themselves and kind of talk about what their main focus is. And I'm going to start in Brady Bunch boxes, right? So it's to my left. So I'm going to start with Steve. Tell us a little bit about the company, Steve.
Hi, thank you everyone for being here. I'm honored to be represented here. I'm with Global Travel Alliance. We are a student group operator. We work in 40 countries, but our largest market is domestic, so this is very applicable. Strictly educational tours primarily. Our big markets are East Coast historical tours like Washington, D.C., New York City, Boston. And then we do operate internationally as well. Central America, Costa Rica being the largest international, and then Europe, Asia, etc. So that's our main market. I'm in Orlando. That's where I live. We are headquartered in Minneapolis. We're part of a bigger family brand of companies. Our sister companies include Fly My Group, which is one of the largest group airline consolidators in the country. And they do a lot of student domestic work as well. Flight Sugar is a customizable online airline booking platform as well. That's part of our brand of companies. And also I'm honored to be the current sitting president of SITA, the Student Youth and Travel Association. So thank you.
Love that. I miss me some SITA.
We all miss it as well.
And then markets, I wasn't able to continue with the association, but I do love it. It's in my blood. So let's go down to Rich. Tell us a little bit about Orlando tours, but also the bigger picture, BBM America.
Sure. Thanks, Sherry. Hello, everybody. My name's Rich Bradley with Original Orlando Tours. Our company was started years ago to focus on those experiences for people traveling to Central Florida beyond the big three parks, beyond the Disney, Universal, SeaWorld. It really started, having lived here for 20, 25 years now, from so many friends and family. Like I'm sure, Steve would say, if you live in Orlando, eventually all your friends and family will come by at some point. And they would do the big things, but they'd say, but what else is there to see and do here? And they were amazed at so many of the secondary and tertiary attractions that many of us locally take for granted, but were really kind of cool to them. And some of our friends, of course, came from overseas. So we had British friends who had never swam in a natural spring. And we had a lot of people now as customers who come to Orlando every year, or they've been coming for many years, or they're coming and spending 3 to 4 weeks, and they're just looking for other things to do. So the cool thing about the concept was these secondary and tertiary attractions generally don't have the budget to even get on the radar of these people. So in addition to advancing our own corporate goals, we kind of like what we do because we're helping others, and we're helping both sides. We're helping those other attractions get visitors that they would never have. And they're so cool that the customers that we have really enjoy these like slices of Orlando that they had no idea existed. We do large group, we do smaller groups, we do private exclusive tours with people that we have certain relationships with. We don't even advertise them. And then we wear a weird hat there too, guys, and that we sort of got in the attraction business ourselves by launching walking tours. And right now we're the largest provider of walking tours in Central Florida. So we kind of wear both hats there. In the bigger picture, we're part of BBM America, which is largely focused on hospitality. The two companies that also kind of tie into what we do here, CX Orlando Research and Revenue Architects, we do mystery shop survey. We mystery shop, that division mystery shops our own tours on occasion. And then the one that I think might have some other relevance for you all is Buena Vista Events and Management. It's an event company, but it's also an association management company. And as I'm sure we'll talk about later, we're looking at booking events around the country for our clients, like right now, trying to take advantage of the downtime to get people focused as we've seen, hopefully, to be coming out of the darkness.
Love it. I am sure that you're going to have lots of questions on both of those things. So right next door to you on my Brady Bunch screen is Matthew. Tell us what you want to go by and tell us a little bit about Guardian Music.
Sure. My name is Matthew Granger. I am the CEO of Guardian Music and Group Travel. We're probably one of your younger companies on this forum, on the session. We're 5 years old. A tour operator, mostly with domestic clients. We have salespeople in 4 countries, but mostly heavily focused in the U.S. Strongest in the student market, but also involved in leisure, corporate, athletic teams, things like that. We are constantly trying to reinvent ourselves and figure out ways to do things better. We came from an area where we just realized in the Chicagoland area, we wanted some more options and we wanted some more opportunities. I'm a former high school choir director like Keith, who you'll talk to in a bit, who was passionate about student groups, passionate about education, and loved our travel experiences. So I wanted to be involved in this market. So we are very strong in the Midwest with our reaches around the country and into a bunch of different countries. Also, so we're excited to be here. We're excited to give you our perspective from what's happening in our area and from our type of industry. So thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for being here, Matthew. And Jennifer did not get hit by the storm. She's from New Orleans, so thank goodness. Congratulations on that. Tell us a little bit about what you're doing, because I'm truly, what we're hearing over and over again from all market segments is that bespoke tours, private tours, are becoming more and more popular and requested right now. So talk to us about your company.
Thank you. So Bespoke Experiences was started 7 years ago. We're in our 8th year now, and we started it here in New Orleans. We recognized that New Orleans post-Katrina was coming through and attempting, and DMOs will recognize this to be a world-class destination. They had some good opportunities to do that in terms of the hotel properties that were in place already. However, their tour operator market really didn't tap into that niche of the luxury traveler. So Bespoke was started here in New Orleans to cater to the custom bespoke, which has been trademarked, just as an FYI.
I love that because it's like the key word internationally. Bespoke tours. That was all over trade shows last year.
Well, it's funny because when we started it, even my own husband didn't know what bespoke meant. and it's been a bit of an uphill effort in the North American market because internationally the word bespoke is well known. Domestically, I've even been asked, well, what language is that? And I'm like, it's just English.
That's funny. Yeah.
It just means custom. So on that note, we started here in New Orleans and we grew very slowly, but then as our team expanded and one of the members of our team moved to San Diego, we thought, well, I think this is scalable. Let's see what we can do. We used San Diego as a test market. And from there, we are now in 11 destinations throughout North America, including Canada. I'm originally Canadian, so we had a bit of a shortcut way to get into the international market. We now focus on, with our long-term growth plan and goal of being the top domestic inbound tour operator within North America, with a goal of being in 26 destinations by 2026. So we're well underway. This past, well, we can talk about some of the developments of what we've been doing, but our goal is to grow, like I said, in the luxury private custom tour niche.
Love it. I can't wait to hear more about it. And for the record, Maria from the New Orleans and CVB is generally on this call. So you just made her very happy. World-class destination. That was the key that I heard, and I know that's exactly what she heard. And last but not least, Keith and I grew up in the student market together. We started when we were like 12, right? Like 12 years old.
Yes, yeah, that's exactly right.
We're not that old now.
Only
so
2 years
Keith,
ago, right?
Has been on one of our calls before. And Kaleidoscope is doing some really unique things to stay relevant in the industry. And we're going to talk about a little bit more of those, but tell us about Kaleidoscope.
So hi, everyone, and thanks, Sherry. I'm Keith Snode. I'm the Chief Operating Officer at Kaleidoscope Adventures. We're part of what's becoming a group of companies, Kaleidoscope being the main leader here, but we also have Onomato Events, which is our educational event company that's going to have actually a big announcement tomorrow that was just teased on social media about an hour ago.
You can't tease with us. We can't be like, get the exclusive scoop on it.
Maybe we might be able to get there. And then we also will be launching and relaunching. It's kind of a mixed bag there. Groupexperience.com and Group Travel Odyssey, which is actually a software as a service platform for group tour operators. It's a fully integrated platform from beginning to end, sales, marketing, service, booking, everything from beginning to end. So finance, everything that we have built here. And it's pretty great. So we've got a lot of great things going on. We've got a great team. We have salespeople in 5 different states, plus our home office here in Orlando, and just recently added a partnership with our friends in Ireland and the Global Band Room podcast, and Keith Kelly, who is selling for us in Ireland now. So
I love that. And that's one of the things that I wanted to talk about. You know, so we're going to circle back to that because I definitely want to talk about the Global Band Room and what's going on. But I know everyone on the call right now really would like some updates on consumer sentiment and what you're hearing from clients. You know, and really, you know, what is there a 2020 outlook, or are we just looking at 2021? Is that where the primary focus is and should be? So I'm going to, we're going to circle back up to the top and talk to Steve, and, you know, just in all the different markets that you're in, you know, kind of what is the consumer sentiment right now when it comes to travel and booking, and especially with the student market, there's a question there of how school, no school, virtual school is going to affect, you know, some of the things that you're doing in the future.
Yeah, I mean, speaking strictly from the student market, you know, teachers kind of have their hands tied behind their back in many ways because they're also reeling from all the changes with back to school and, you know, students online, school opening and then closing, all of that. And then on top of that, they're getting pressure from their school district to not do any trips. So it's a lot of perception adjusting, you know, because the fact is, you know, travel is safe right now. You know, if you've flown recently, you know, I've never felt safer on a plane. I've been flying still a number of times and going to a couple different destinations. And so changing that perception, because for the school districts, it's very easy for them to say, this is a low hanging fruit. let's nix trips for the rest of the school year or for the whole school year sometimes. And so it's trying to find those decision makers and convincing them that don't rush to make that decision, which seems to be happening right now. They're back to school, they're getting a lot of pressure from higher ups. Don't rush it, because if your trip is in June, next June, don't make that decision so early. You know, typically financial penalties aren't going to kick in until you're within, say, 90 days of travel. So let's wait a little bit and see, because what we're finding is the teachers, they want to travel. The parents, they want to travel. They've got a lot of pent up demand there. Their students, we know how life-changing it is for students, and the teachers do as well. So it's this battle between a lot of different fronts to change that perception and convince them to hold on. And hopefully we'll have a real strong late fall booking once some of that public sentiment changes a bit.
Fingers crossed. I couldn't agree with you more. And Jennifer, what with your private tours and private luxury tours, we've heard that has really increased as a searchable, requested item with everything going on. How what's the consumer sentiment with your clients? You're in 11 different destinations. You know, how's it looking for you?
Notice that the Canadian market is completely shut down with the border between Canada and the US. That has extremely, that's limited what we can do cross border. However, we are seeing an uptick in the South. So I don't know if it's a political sentiment thing, but like all of our California markets are wiped out. I mean, between the fires and COVID and everything that's happening on the West Coast, our California market is zero. Nashville, New Orleans, Savannah, Charleston, they're starting to see a little bit of an uptick. I think because it's still warm. Of course, we had some interest, and then the hurricane kind of made that decision.
You tend to put a damper on things. Yeah.
2020 is just something else. I don't know.
I think everyone on the call is taking a deep breath and going, come on, let's just get through this year.
Yes.
The fires, COVID, the hurricanes, the tornadoes, it's just been something else. I mean, it just, every time you feel like you're back on your feet, there's something just, comes out of left field, and you just go, well, okay.
Exactly. This truly has been the year of pivoting, right? The year of, hey, what else can I do? And who else what markets can we focus on? And Matthew, question for you. You mentioned athletic groups, and one thing that we've heard when it comes to students, and Keith and Steve can certainly jump in on this as well, is that maybe those athletic groups might be the ones that travel more. Those are some of the questions that we heard. So have you seen a difference in requests, from your band groups to your education groups to your athletic groups?
So I would say that the requests haven't stopped for our company. It's just the timeline of when we expect them to travel. Kind of along the lines of what Steve was saying, is the interest is there. We as a company, and then also our clients, we're not in a hurry. As much as I would love to have new incoming business, cash in hand to make things happen, that's not the route that we are foreseeing, at least for Guardian. On the sports side of things, our busiest season is the summer, when we have the travel basketball teams, softball, baseball. That didn't happen. So our during the school year market is okay. We plan on helping some groups. They're ready for us as soon as we have the school sponsored leagues getting the approval from their districts or from their administrations to have more happen. And it's just really, it's a lot of, we want to travel. We've got the itch. We're ready to do this. We just need to find when the time is right. So the hit that we took during the school year is pretty massive. We have a handful of groups hanging on for January going forward. But we've lost an overwhelmingly large number of groups that just want to see what it looks like in the future, and they're ready to come and see all you guys. It's just taking some time, and our route that we've chosen to take is we don't want to rush into this again. We don't want the parents and the families upset at our company as a tour operator or our vendors. I don't think my heart can handle another round of just complete refunds for the overwhelming amount of our business. So we're just trying to be more careful and more diligent in providing as much information as we have to accurately forecast what the future could look like, which is impossible.
Right.
But
I
we're
wish
doing
we
the
all
best we
had
can.
like crystal balls, right? That would
Yeah.
make all of our lives that much easier. Rich, when it comes to consumer sentiment from you, Orlando's open, albeit not as busy as it normally is this time of year, but how have things been for you? I mean, as far as consumers still coming in and doing some things with you this year?
Yeah, so as you can imagine, pretty bad. If you were to break down our market segments in a normal year, 50% of our business is international. So there's half of it gone right off the bat. 40% is outside of Florida and 10% is within Florida. The 40% has been dead most of the year, but starting to get a little tire kicking going. And so really the challenge for us is that, we're down to the last 10% of the market, and which of those people are willing to venture out and have some fun. What I can say is literally in the last 2 weeks, we have started to see more activity. And the one benefit of being both an operator, provider, as well as an attraction is that we're able to monitor the growth of it through the attraction side. In other words, walking tours have sold in the last week like they haven't since pre-COVID. So we think it starts with the individual wanting to go out and feeling safe to go out, and that person's small group. Realistically, we think it's going to be a little while yet before larger groups start coming together. But you can't get to larger groups without individual groups, and
Right.
we're really thrilled to see the individual groups and small people are starting to now come out, and they're coming out in the next couple of weeks. It's not booking for 2021. They're coming out for the rest of September and October. So I start to see light at the end of the tunnel and a glimmer of hope that we do what we call micro tours, which is, 6 or less, where the driver comes to the hotel and takes your family out. Not seeing that yet because, again, I don't think, getting as many people coming to Orlando looking for that. But that would be the next thing that we would monitor. When does that start to pick up? And hopefully, the 10 to 30 groups and then the large coaches will come right behind that.
Do you have restrictions from your mayor or governor that limit your ability to do those? Like, what phase is your city in?
Yeah, well, I mean, so it's kind of a region. We're not really that restricted. We put our own restrictions on. So, for instance, the only thing we're operating right now, as I said, is the walking tours. So we might normally operate on a food tour up to 15 and then maybe go a little higher on a history or a ghost. But those are all cut down to 6. So if we happen to sell more, which thank God we finally are, what we're doing is putting more guides on. So we're keeping the groups still small, but just doing multiple groups. And of course, we're doing all of the basic things. We have masks on hand in case somebody forgets one. We have hand sanitizer for everybody. We try to do the social distancing as best as we can. So we want people to feel like it's okay to come out. And so far it's worked out for us.
I love that. I'm glad that you're seeing an interest in sales are picking up, and I'm glad. I know, right? Exactly. And that locals and Florida residents can come in and fill some of that void for you. That's talking about everything we're talking about, pivoting and kind of pivoting, that where that marketing is going to. And speaking of that, my friend Keith, we talked a couple of months ago, and I'm sure things have changed in those last couple of months when it comes to consumer sentiment. But things have changed in what you're doing just to keep the name out there and the partnerships that you've done. So this is when I'm going to circle back to Global Band Room, but I also want to talk about Kaleidoscope joining the Let's Go movement with US Travel, just to keep information out there. So how has that been working for you?
It's been great. It's been great. We actually, pre the Let's Go movement, we actually, as part of our hashtag KSafe promotion, followed and used the guidance of the World Travel and Tourism Council for how we are shaping our response to the pandemic. They have some great guidance that actually was helped along by some of our friends here in the industry. IITA was part of it, and the Expedia Group, things like that. So there's some really great tools for tour operators and for suppliers there. And part of that hashtag KA Safe program is our KA approved program for suppliers. And we're using that guidance as what we're asking to help make sure our groups are safe. So that was one of our pivots that happened since we talked last. And then we've also reshaped some products of ours. We launched Just For Us Adventures, which are tours in destinations curated specifically to limit contact with large groups and crowds. And much to what Rich was talking about, smaller groups, keeping the groups contained, private experiences, things like that, which I'm sure Jennifer has experience with that in New Orleans as well. And those are actually being received very well. And so we're actually launching some for the spring that families can buy into in different destinations. And so if we have any destinations that are interested in us putting one of those tours together, we have 6 destinations launched right now. We have another 3 that are coming out on Friday, tomorrow, actually. And we're working on another 2 right now. So if a destination's interested in having that conversation, certainly reach out to me and I will get you connected on that. So there's lots of new programs going on, plus our connection with Global Band Room. We'd already worked with 2 other podcasters in the band world, and we're working on a couple choral podcasters next. So we've got some good things coming in there and in the education space. So it's been a month of a lot of new announcements around here. So it's been fun, but we see consumer sentiment just like everybody else is talking about. But I wanted to point out something that Rich said, which was really interesting that we have noticed. We've had several requests, especially in the past couple weeks, with our clients, mainly our past clients, calling us and saying, how much lead time do I need to give you for you to book a tour for me? A lot of them asking, hey, I think I'm going to find out in the spring that I'm able to do something. If I called you, how quickly could you put something together? And I think that we're going to see a lot of that time frame changing for people, not only just because of when they can get the approval, but also because of the fact that it kind of minimizes their risk in terms of cancellation because they're closer into the window. They have a better handle on what the situation looks like. So we've noticed a lot of customers coming to us along those lines. And we've also had a lot of non-school sponsored student groups that have come our way that are still traveling. We're actually probably going to have a new trip on the books here soon to Hawaii. Who knew? For 2020 or for 2021, early 2021. So there's good things happening. I'm not discouraged at all. It's just like Matthew said, it's kind of a timing thing. You got to just kind of pace it out. So
it's interesting that you brought up time frame. On our calls the last couple of weeks, overall data was showing an increase. Where it used to be 14 days in advance, 30 days in advance, 40 days in advance. The majority of bookings right now have been like 3 days in advance.
Yes.
Which, how do you forecast that? I mean, you don't. But that is, a good conversation to have. Of you're going to have to do things so quick, and to get a tour put together that fast. What do you need from suppliers to help you with that? And anyone can jump in on that, right? I mean, and that's what these calls are about. They need to know how to help you and how to garner your business.
I'm almost fearful to answer that question in the sense because one of the things we struggle with right now is getting a hold of people because so many people are furloughed, which is it's just horrible for all of us. And so, one is not helping the other, that's for sure.
Right.
So the speed, but of turning things around. And in some cases, that's just the reality of it. We're just going to have to keep pressing and get the answer. And we're all going to have to work together. I think that for us, it's just information and flexibility. flexibility is the key thing. Each group is coming to us with a different idea and a different need, and the flexibility to be able to pivot and make it work. It's been really interesting as we've curated these Just For Us adventures, because we've learned a lot about suppliers that we didn't know, just because we hadn't asked the right question. So.
Got it. And Steve, would you agree with that? What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think flexibility is huge. And I know that it goes both ways. I know that vendors, suppliers, you've been burned, and we've been burned with so many things with the refunds and everything else. And so, tour operators are going to be looking, to do away with non-refundable initial refunds and things like that, and flexibility. And as far as that short window you were talking about, we just talked about that earlier this morning, because in our market, 50% of our bookings come in a year in advance, which I know seems crazy, but we do large package tours that are, say, a week long. And so that was very slow to non-existent, as you can imagine, in the spring for next year. And so typically the rest of that would come in, say, by October 1st. But we're looking at that and realizing, okay, the window that we've worked with for, I've been doing this 19 years, is going to be upended. And because people are waiting, so people in our market, people aren't going to wait till 14 days beforehand, because we're talking a group of 50 or 100 for $1,000, $2,000 trip. So that's not unrealistic, but a window before that maybe was a year or 9 months, realistically could be 3 months, where I anticipate we'll have groups in January that may say, okay, we thought our trip was off, but there's so much demand and the tide has turned, and now we think we can go in April or May of next year, which is, in the past, in our market, in our specific company, that was typically unheard of. But we're going to see more and more of that, I believe.
But Steve, the one thing that I think will change, though, too, especially I think maybe more so in 2021 on those closer in tours, is that the destinations are going to change. People are going to be more regional in their approach and where they go. They're not going to travel as far for many reasons. The biggest of which is, if they fundraise for their money, they don't have as much time to create the $1,000 trip. They need a $500 or $600 trip or whatever. So I actually think it's an advantage. It's a big opportunity for some destinations that have typically struggled to get the student market back, in their area, to really amp up their game and get them noticed, because there's some, as we all know, there's amazing things in a ton of destinations that it's so hard sometimes to get the group leader off of the Orlando or the New York or things like that and say, you really should try out Memphis or what, or Nashville or something, because or New Orleans, there's really great things there and you really should try them out. And this is I think a huge opportunity for us to sell those destinations.
I love that. So my next question is going to be, do you need product in those areas, right? Are you sourcing product in those areas right now? Because that's the question that everyone on this call is going to have. And if you do need product in those areas, what's the best way to get it to you? Is it email? And I'm going to come down to you, Jennifer, because you're not specifically student. You work with all types of groups. Are you seeing that maybe destinations are going to change for you as well?
Well, we've had like I said, we have a very specific growth plan. The one thing that I like about what we've been doing and how we've been able to handle it, specifically around the COVID crisis, it has been that we're very flexible and fluid in terms of the timeline. So although we had Savannah on our radar to launch for our Q2 in 22, we just launched it last week because we had a guest that said we want it. And within 2 days, Keith, you were talking about timelines, and
yeah.
Steve,
wow.
we had 2 days to put together something for a group of 8. But it was a very high net worth individual who was willing to, pay for the compressed timeline. And so what can destinations do? I think outreach is key, because to, my fellow panelists' point, with the situation where so many of our trusted partners and the relationships that we've spent all these years developing, seeing so many people furloughed or laid off or completely getting out of the industry altogether, it's important to know who's there. who
Yeah.
can we talk to?
Right.
We know who we used to talk to, but now who's there? It's also important for us as a destination or as an organization to know, like for example, New Orleans is only in phase 2. Our state is in phase 3, but the city of New Orleans is in phase 2. So knowing what that means in terms of what restrictions we are in place. Obviously, I think we can all agree that we're all following the logical COVID precautions. The face mask, the social distancing, the sanitize. I mean, all of that stuff. I think that if you're not doing that, I think that you'd be the anomaly. But I think that knowing what it means in terms of group sizes, in terms of driving versus only walking, admission to certain venues, whether or not they're even open. And the Country Music Hall of Fame only just reopened, but a lot of restaurants in New Orleans are going to, instead of just your normal first come, first serve, or even a reservation system, now they're being ticketed. So you don't get a choice of menu, you get a menu, you pay in advance, they know exactly who's coming, they've set up their configurations in the venue to allow for all of that. And I think just being able to keep up on and have a single resource, because I know I get thousands of emails a day, and just filtering through them and saying, okay, that's good, that's okay, I don't care, oh, okay, that's important. It's tough. It's just a lot of information, and it's constantly changing.
And it varies city to city, and state to state, your point. And I will put on my old DMO hat and speak up for all of the DMOs on the call. They're going to reach out to you and say, keep in touch with me. I'm going to be your point person. I'm going to make sure that you have the information in my destination. So that is, the perfect place to start. And then they're there and can filter out and find what you need. But speaking of clean and safe, we've all, to your point, Jennifer, we're all in face masks. We're all hand sanitizing, washing our hands all the time, social distancing. In the requests that you've gotten, is that the most important thing that people want to know? What are those hot buttons for safe and clean? Because a lot of destinations and attractions and hotels, they all have their own plans, but a lot of destinations have gone to a certification program, for the hotels and restaurants and things. Does that make a difference? I mean, what do you think, Rich? Is that making a difference for people, that certification?
Possibly. CX Orlando actually runs certification programs for that. But what I think on the travel side of things is that the people who are willing to travel, who want to travel, in our experience, are almost taking it for granted that that's in place. I can't point to any experiences where somebody said, well, we'd like to go, but we're unsure whether the proper precautions are in place. To me, they're sort of in, or they're not in.
Yeah, I agree, Rich. I mean, we've all kind of gotten used to that. So for us, the questions we're getting are not, what are the procedures you put in place? And we have our documents in place showing all that. We've gone through training with our tour guides about all of our new policies. A lot of the questions now has to do with more like the refunds, because people have been burned with the travel they had planned this last year, and they want to know the fine print that they didn't read before. Now they're looking at it closely, and what have you changed, pandemic clauses, refund, etc. And to the previous question for destinations, super helpful to have comprehensive lists on what's open and what's closed. For us, on a typical package tour, you're going to like a dozen venues. And we were to a point where every other day we're checking every different website. Okay, what's the status on this venue? We don't know if they're open or they're closed, or they have a cap limit or a group size limit. And on a package tour where you easily have 25 vendors that you're working with in all different arenas, it's hard to keep track of.
Yeah.
To add on to what Steve was saying. Oh, sorry, go ahead, Keith.
No,
Go ahead.
The last part about keeping up to date is so important. And with us, it's great. For those of you who are new to your positions at CVBs or different vendors that we use, make sure your CVVs know what you are up to. Make sure they know that you are the contact person. Or if you are relatively new, to the area that you're on their lists, because we are trying to streamline as much as possible. Our staff is feeling just the weight of all the things that we need to do as a company to move forward and reinvent ourselves. So our first call is always to the CVB, whether it's one of the bigger cities that we've been working with for years, or if it's a smaller one where we're putting together our first possible proposal. Having all of that information, if we can just reach out to them and say, and they can tell us, here are the people you need to contact. Here's the people for the RFPs. Here are the places that aren't open. Here are the places that we just need to wait on. Keeping them updated has been the best thing for us, because we know right away where we stand with a lot of these different vendors. And like Jennifer says, we've got some quick turnarounds. And if you don't have time for us, this particular trip, you're off our list.
And
That was
Sherry,
very good. Well done.
Sherry, I'd like to add about from a client standpoint, the health and safety. I agree with everybody in the sense that the customers that are traveling, that's not what they're focused on. They're really focused on the clarity of what they're getting, when they have to make decisions, and how at what points do those decisions affect them financially, with their plans, how they plan, things like that. We actually took this time to look at our entire process and focus on the word transparency and figure out how we can become more transparent for our client. And, in the student market, it's a little different because our client is twofold. It's the group leader, but then it's also the actual end user, the traveler and their parents. And what we found through this process over the spring was that we were relying on our teachers to be somebody that they aren't. We were relying on them to be good communicators of cancellation policies. And oftentimes they were communicating something that they didn't even understand themselves. So what we have found and how we've retooled it is we've kind of started to take over that communication and give tools to our group leaders to say, listen, you don't have to do this. We can handle it for you, not only from a technology standpoint, but just from a communication standpoint and how we can help you. And we have found just over the past month or so that has meant a lot to the group leaders in their willingness to kind of take the next step, so that they know that your cancellation penalty is on this date and things like that, but that they don't have to necessarily be the one to communicate it. So.
Yeah, and that's a really good point, not only for student groups, but also for every other group that's out there and individual travelers. I think, between refunds and cancellations and transfers and vouchers and, so much out there that everyone does want it to be transparent. Everyone is wanting to know what they get into prior to, based on the past few months. So I think that's a really good point to talk about.
Can I just mention one?
Yeah, please jump on in, Jennifer.
Well, one thing that I'm noticing, at least in the luxury market, and this is always been the case, but I'm seeing a shift from the vendor's perspective. So our guests always look for exclusivity. They don't want to follow the flag. They don't want to be surrounded by screaming children. They want something that's worth the money that they're paying.
Sure.
And where I'm seeing a shift is that the vendors who have typically been larger landmark destinations are now being asked to rethink their processes and ticketing procedures and group sizes, in terms of being able to accommodate smaller groups with greater exclusivity. And that's one message that I would like to put out to our group today, is that I think we're not alone in our service offering and being exclusive and offering those kind of privileged behind the scenes access. But I think that if the vendors can start thinking along those lines, then it'll certainly help, because I think that's what our groups are asking for. like Keith mentioned, it's a given that we're going to be safe and we're going to be protected. And we're going to provide all the, paraphernalia to make sure that that's the case. Where the vendors need to step up is being able to accommodate those, rather than the, mass marketed, high volume products.
Sherry,
I'm sorry, go ahead, Keith.
Sherry, I actually want to, I think Jennifer's talking about that. It kind of goes back to that flexibility idea and how they shape their product. I want to mention something, because flexibility, I think sometimes we can take it a little too far. And I know we've mentioned different things about, non-refundability and cancellation penalties and things like that. And I do believe as an industry, we have to be careful. The jump in your mind is, okay, well, I'm just going to make everything refundable up until the last day possible, and it's fine. And, I mentioned this kind of on the last call that we were on. We have to be careful as an industry to jump to that level of flexibility, because we devalue our knowledge and expertise as professionals and as an industry. If we don't balance that with, people do need to realize that when they make a commitment to us, they've made a commitment. And so it's, so I urge all of the listeners out there, the watchers out there, to understand, yes, we need flexibility, but we need to work together to balance that flexibility with being good stewards of our industry. Because if we don't do that, we're going to end up like a prime example was after one of the financial crashes, when the auto industry decided to make everything $1.95 and give discounts down to, everything was discounted all the time, and they're still in that rut today. I don't know if anybody remembers the day where cars weren't discounted.
Anybody.
Right, exactly. And so, it's a slippery slope to go down, and I think that we have to balance flexibility with responsibility. And so I don't want anybody to think that when I ask for flexibility, I'm saying, give me the world. That's not what I think all of us would agree here, it's a collaborative effort.
Yeah.
That's a nice clarification, because every hotelier and attraction and transportation company on this call and restaurant just took a big sigh of relief, because they're looking for partnership and they want to help, but I'm sure they're very happy that you recognize that it's a give and take on both sides.
Right.
And Steve, I cut you off. I'm sorry, you were about to.
No, that's okay. Yeah, I mean, I've heard vendors say, well, I feel like a group won't book with me unless I give 100% refund up until, 5 hours before cancellation. And that's not what any of us are asking. It's just for a partnership, really. We want to partner with you. We also get that, you have obligations on your part. And so, when a vendor said to me, look, I can't do a refund, but I can give you a credit towards this next year. To me, I was like, that's fine with me. I get that, and that totally works. We all have to make accommodations and be flexible, and, without vendors, we're not gonna be able to do any tours next year. So it is a partnership. We all wanna work together. But at the same time, like Keith said, don't give away the world. Because that's a lot of the conflicting information that's happened this last year. As a client says, oh, well, I understand airlines and hotels are giving full refunds. Well, no, they're not, but it's that public perception, and
Right.
that's some of what we're fighting as well. So we do need to keep the integrity of the product in place.
It's just about being reasonable on both sides.
Absolutely. No, I couldn't agree more. So I knew this was going to happen. We haven't even really gotten into marketing yet, and we're down to 10 minutes. So we're gonna touch on marketing really quickly, and just kind of what your focus is. Is it all social? Is it time to get out there and start marketing again? And if so, how can the suppliers on the call actually interact with you and help you in that marketing push for your clients? Because they are out there and want to help, whether it be on their social channels or anything that they can do to push that. So I'm going to come down to you, Matthew. Do you have what kind of marketing are you doing, and can anyone be involved in it with you?
Yeah, so ours has been minimal up to this point. This was a conversation that we had earlier this week in our staff meeting, was how do we want to proceed going forward? Because of course we want to promote Guardian, but our bigger focus has been how we're going to promote these different destinations. Before things got too crazy, we did just a very shallow dive into the different destinations that SIDA was promoting. Like, here's the top 10 domestic and top 10 international ones. And we want to be able to do the same thing going forward with your cities. So CVBs, vendors, different attractions, restaurants, send me what you have. If you have pictures, if you have short video clips, things that we can throw on our social media channels, on our websites to do blog posts about, we're ready. Like, we want to be showcasing, here are the great things for you to do. Keith mentioned that we have, that his company is seeing a lot more regional trips. We're the same way, being based in Chicago. The number of groups that want to go to Minneapolis, St. Louis, Indianapolis, just short trips that can be in over the weekend trips, have grown exponentially. And if there are other things that we can hit in transit, or other great restaurants that we don't know about, or attractions that you want to announce both on your channels and on ours, that you're ready to go, give me it. Send me everything you got.
I love that. And that's a really great message when you're looking at shorter weekend trips, maybe destinations that you hadn't been in before. To Keith's point earlier, it gives all of those destinations and open air attractions an opportunity to really get out there and market where they may not have had the opportunity before. Rich, what are you doing marketing wise? I know, within, even on, the event side of the company, what's the primary focus there?
Yeah, so locally, we're a little different than some of the other panelists because Original Orlando Tours is really micro-focused on Central Florida. But just as a brief point, what we're doing is really focusing back on our international market, particularly the UK, and engaging a lot in our social media channels. That's where we get a lot of our intelligence in terms of how the other side of the pond is thinking about returning to Central Florida. So what are we doing with that? Well, we're more active on about 25 different groups, but we're also doing things just to stay relevant with them. So we're creating more videos and sharing those videos. And we're doing things like every other week, we're doing online trivia, ways to stay in front of people and engage with them so that when it comes back to the buying and traveling time, we're top of mind. On Buena Vista events, one of the things, Keith raised a really good point about the shorter windows for booking. Just as an example, Buena Vista events had one of its clients on Tuesday call and say, we have canceled our annual convention this year, which we already knew. However, since it looks like Florida is doing much better in the COVID, and since you guys are there, can you put together a strategic summit for us for November 8th, 9th, and 10th? So we're within 2 windows. Normally we would be working 15 months out. So I would definitely say that if things continue to rapidly improve, not to give up hope that there's still not business to be had the rest of this year, because that's also being kicked around by some of our other clients. These are the first ones to pull the trigger, but I think we're going to see more bookings around the country with some of these other groups. And the last thing I would say on that too is that what has been depressing is when we've been bidding out projects this year with hotels in particular, that you send the bid out and 2 weeks later that same person who responded to your bid has been furloughed. But we're starting to see some of those people, at least in Central Florida, start to come back to work, or at least they're being told that they can come back on November 1 or the first of the year. And the last piece of that is to the short notice window again. We've had several properties tell us in Orlando that Thursday is the money day because a lot of the guests are local and they start thinking at the end of the week, let's do something. And so there's no business going on at all Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and then Thursday it lights up and they get bookings for the weekend. So it's strange, unusual times, of course. But I think there's a lot of hope out there right now.
I agree with that. Jennifer, what any marketing for your groups that you're engaged in that those destinations can jump on with you?
No, I'm with the rest of the group that knowing what's available, having access to their collateral would be great. We've pulled way back. I mean, I don't even know that we have much of a marketing budget right now, just because, if there's no revenue coming in,
That's the way it works, yeah.
So we've been able to keep all of our staff on, but it was a deliberate, we had to make a choice. It was keep people or keep the marketing. And so, there's been some social media activity, but fortunately, philosophically, as a company from the very beginning, we do consumer related, and anything that's B2B tends to be word of mouth and through business development relationships and what have you. Networking, I used to jokingly say that we were the speakeasy of tour companies, that the people who knew us, they would find us. But we've gotten a little bigger than that now, and people, are seeing more of our company around. But right now, through 2020, we're trying to be very strategic about the money that we have. So
absolutely, I think everybody, any organization right now in this industry is doing the same thing.
I will say this, that one thing, because you have a lot of DMOs and CVBs online, with all of the destinations that we're in, we are members of those CVBs. And so part of my expectation as a business owner is that if I'm paying those CVB membership rates, I'm expecting that organization is using their resources to help promote their membership. Perfect. So if I'm going to pay anything, anywhere from $99 with Chicago to, $1,500 or something for San Francisco, which is insane. But anyway, if we're going to pay that money, you've got a bigger net than we do. Market for us.
Good point. Partnership. Very good point. Steve, what about marketing for you?
We've been doing quite a big blitz the last month because we figured the worst we can do is get a no back. And so, we're calling teachers, emailing, and if anything, hopefully our name is out there for them to remember us. So yeah, anything you want to send along. We have had requests for trips closer to home. Happy to say we just had a group trip that just got home within the last hour or two from a package trip to Montana and Wyoming. They toured Yellowstone and the Tetons, and they had a great time. So don't lose hope. It is going to come back. We've seen an uptick as well in individual flight bookings through our Flight Sugar platform. So large uptick across the country, domestic wide with different bookings. So yeah, we're just going to keep at it and not give up hope.
I love that. And Keith, I know that you guys are doing a lot of marketing out there. Anything specific that people can get involved in? I know certainly some of your new group information, your family travel. You just expect more phone calls. That's all I'm saying. But
we're the same as Steve. We've been, trying different places and really doing outreach in different ways to our current customers and new ones. But from a supplier standpoint, we have several ways that suppliers can participate. The KA approved, you can get approved. Most of you are already doing the things you need to do to get approved, so you just have to ask us about it, and we'll communicate, and we'll get you the stamp, and you can have some fun and share that, and it would help us, and hopefully it helps you too, to help us with our #KASafe program. And then with the Just For Us Adventures, we actually have a whole marketing kit put together that when a destination comes to us, the things that are kind of like asks that we would like and things that we need, and it's actually pretty straightforward and clear. I will tell you the destinations we launched, each one of the destination management organizations sent us a little 15 to 20 second video announcing our program, and we're using that in our advertising, and it's been kind of cute and fun to see what people are sending in, very organic. So we have lots of unique ways that you can participate with us. Just reach out and ask. We'd love to have you help, and we'd love to work with you. So
I love that. And it's 2 o'clock, so I haven't even gotten to like any final thoughts, but we're going to do it quickly because I think everybody likes them. Any inspiring final thoughts that anyone would like to share before we wrap up the call? I mean, whether it be for this year or next year, anything to add for the good of the order?
I'm going to repeat what Steve said. Don't lose hope.
Love it.
I'd like to just say thank you. Thank you for everything. Yeah. These last 6 months, they sucked. That's the nicest way I can say it. So thank you for being understanding. Thank you for being our partner in this whole process. We at Guardian, we value you. Our clients value you. We are so grateful for everything that you've done to help navigate this incredibly challenging time. and we wouldn't have made it without you. And we are incredibly grateful, and we look forward to getting to have more interactions and sending more business your way going forward.
Love it. Thank you for that.
I think the
Anyone else?
vendors, yeah, vendors, you know, you are often the unsung heroes through the pandemic. So we appreciate you, the CVBs working so hard to get information out, and all the vendors for being flexible. You know, we don't often say it or say it enough, but thank you so much for continuing to make these experiences reality for students in groups and in every part of this industry.
Love that.
I'd like to-
Well, it is. Go ahead, Jennifer.
I'm just going to say, you know, we're all such amazing people. I mean, I've never met such great people than through hospitality and events. And I mean, we've been doing this for 20 years. And I just, there's no way that this amazing group of intelligent, accomplished, connected people are going to let this fail. So it's just it's just persistence and diligence and patience. That's all we can do.
Yep.
I think we got that. We have always said that Tourism Strong, we're in this together and we're going to get through it together. So we're going to be flexible. We're going to be we're going to communicate with each other, and we're going to get through this. I didn't thank Betsy Cooper from Tour Operator Land at the beginning of this call. She sponsors all of these for us. So thank you, Betsy Cooper. Her information is in the chat. Make sure to interact with Betsy and see what you can do with Tour Operator Land. And as always, if you have questions, if you have ideas for next week, let us know. Email us. All of our panelists are going to provide their email so you can interact with them. And this video is being recorded, so it will be posted on our YouTube channel that you can share with your colleagues and your partners to learn a little bit more information about what our panelists shared today. And lastly, we too are 100% committed to doing an industry event, and we will be in Orlando November 8th through the 10th with a receptive operator show and a domestic tour operator show. So please contact us for more information, and we look forward to talking next week, same time, same channel. And thank you to all of our panelists for giving your time to us this week. Really, really appreciate learning from all of your great minds. So have a great weekend, everyone. See you back next week. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.